How long have you been playing in the NFL now? How long's it been for you?
This will next year be my 4th year, so I've completed 3 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Has it been with the Chargers or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Since
nice.
2018.
So how, I should know this because I live here, but how long have they actually been in LA?
I think my when I first got there was their either second or 3rd year. So this will probably be like year 5. But we just moved into, the new stadium in Inglewood. This past year was the first year in that, and I think they had played 3 or 4 years in, where the Galaxy play in Carson.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I guess they've been in LA longer than I realized. I thought it had only been like 2 to 3 years, like now.
Yeah, yeah. This will be I want to say the 5th year, probably
Okay.
5th year. Yeah, I think we're definitely still working. I mean, LA is tough. The market's tough because there's so much going on. There's so many teams. You got Hollywood. You just got everything, and
When
so
everyone's a transplant, man. I mean, everybody's a transplant, so they already have their hometown teams.
exactly,
But
exactly, and
it's
then
also so big.
right, it's huge. And like the Raiders just have a huge. I know they moved to Vegas, but because they were just a California team throughout pretty much their whole history, there's a lot of Raiders fans. Like the Rams were here, then went to St. Louis, then came back. So they have a solid stranglehold. But really, when they went to the Super Bowl, like they still didn't even they weren't even filling their. They were playing at the Coliseum. I think they weren't filling that even their Super Bowl year.
Really?
Yeah, so it's
Well,
like
because
it's
they're
just
also a storied franchise too. Because it's like they have that like they were the bad guys of the league back in the
yep,
'70s and stuff. So they had people all over the country that kind of migrated to that team that may have
yep,
nothing to do with Oakland, but they like the
hmm
team. That's interesting.
exactly. Hmm.
Well, so when I lived in Seattle, when the MLS team, the Sounders,
Hmm.
came to town, and Seattle had an MLS team, and it was pretty successful. And I think part of that reason was because, you know, Seattle is also a lot of transplants, not quite to LA's level, obviously, but a lot of transplants. So everybody already has their baseball team, everybody already has their football team, but MLS, well, not a lot of people have an MLS team. I mean,
Right,
unless you're like Chicago or New York, there's a good chance you don't.
right.
So it kind of gave everybody something to agree on. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
for
we're
sure.
all going to be watching different screens when it's football or baseball or
Yeah,
hockey, even. Although at the time they didn't have an NHL team, but when it's Sounders, we're all united. We're all on board that we like the Sounders and we like our
yeah,
chants and stuff. But in a place like LA, again, it's just so big that there's not
right,
really a common city identity anyway.
right,
And
exactly.
you're trying to come as a football team where it's like people they already got their football teams.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. We're definitely trying to like you said break into the market. But we have to it comes down to winning, That and that's what'll help is if you have a team, you feel like your city or even if you're not from here, but you feel like your city is, going to be in the playoffs or potentially making to the Super Bowl, that kind of galvanizes that support. And it might take a while. Like a lot of these teams, like you said, like it takes a while to build a fan base. Like when you look at the Seahawks and some of these other teams, the Niners, like they've been there so long that they've kind of built the base up over years and years and years. And so it'll take some time, but I'm excited. We definitely get a lot of good interaction. And what I love about it is a lot of the fans here are, you know, people of color, whether it's like, Latino, just Latinx or, I mean, you have all types of people, like, LA, you have all types of people here. And so that's nice too, especially when we were at StubHub where the Galaxy used to play. Like, there just be a lot of people of color. It's like nice to see, It's like, damn, okay. Like, it's nice to see a very diverse fan base. And you can do that in LA because it's just a very diverse city.
So I used to watch the NFL a lot more than I currently do. And what kind of pushed me away from it a little bit is, first of all, I'm a big hockey guy, and I gave myself an NHL subscription for my birthday one year, and then that became my reoccurring birthday gift. So that's just where I put a lot of my energy. But also, and I'm sure you remember this. I forget what game it was, but it was where an announcer just said, and he was telling the truth, but it just got to the point where you're just like, this is a little ridiculous, where he just goes, well, we don't know what a catch is.
Oh, man.
You remember that?
That was probably the Lions game with maybe Calvin Johnson, because my dad is a huge Lions fan. Like I said, he's from Detroit, but he moved to Chicago when he was 18, and he always would listen to the sports talk radio. I don't know. It's like self-torture.
He never switched over to the Bears.
He never switched over to the Bears. And so when the Lions played the Bears, and he always would get super hyped because he just wanted to hear them talking about, how the Lions beat them. Like, I don't know. He kind of enjoyed that, I think. And they threw, like, Calvin Johnson scored a touchdown at the end of the game, and he, like, caught the ball in the end zone and then, like, on his butt and had the ball in one hand. And as he flipped over, put the ball on the ground and stood up. And they said he didn't complete the process of a catch. And so they ruled the touchdown didn't count. And it was like, I mean, everyone was talking about it. And it was like, this is so obviously just a catch, right? And so I think I remember that, like, vividly. That was a big moment. I think the rules have gotten a little bit clearer on that. So it's a little bit better. But, I mean, the rules change all the time. So
yeah,
you just gotta go with the flow, man. A lot of times there'll be stuff that they call that, like, people on our sideline don't, like, we didn't even know that's a rule. There's like thousands of rules, man. There's so many rules. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
No, like, we're like, that's a rule.
That's a thing?
Yeah.
I remember one time I was watching a game where the coach threw a challenge flag. This was when they, like, brought the challenge in. And the referee was like, you can't challenge that. And the coach was like, yes, I can. And so the referee, which I guess this referee didn't know that, like, sound bites on morning radio are totally a thing. And you just gave everybody in morning radio a big gift for Monday morning. But he goes, I'm not sure if you can challenge this, so I'm going to look it up. And he looks it up. And he can. Like, the coach was right. So they accepted but it's like, yeah, man, for me, I get it. Like it is a game of inches. It is a game of, I understand all that. And I love the game. I think it's a beautiful game. And obviously you do too. But sometimes I'm just like, God, geez, let's just play. Like, can we, I mean, I feel like we're a year away from, like, you guys are going to start drafting attorneys to, like, just like negotiate every play. And I mean, do you feel that way at all, or am I being too demanding?
Think, like, from the outside looking in, I could definitely see how you see that. Like, when you're playing, it's like the rule changes are so small, like, from year to year, that you kind of just get used to it. A lot of times it's not like one huge new rule. I think, like, with targeting, that was kind of like the last time there was, like, this huge new rule that everyone, like, hated for, like, a year or two, and then everyone just was like, okay, fine, like, it's a part of the game. And that was a good rule because it does protect us a lot better, as opposed to, like, when you look at the 80s and people are just, like, launching head first and just smacking heads and just getting concussed and all that type of stuff. The game is a lot safer now than it used to be.
They used to be able to just body slam each other.
Oh, you could do
they used to be able to just pick a person up and drop them on their head. And it's like, that's not tackling somebody. Like,
it was no holds barred, like, clotheslines, fly, like, just anything you could think of. 70s, 80s, like, that was football.
Yeah, I mean, that was nuts. Yeah, and then they started, like, reeling it into, and I agree, that is good, because it's like, you can basketball totally tackle.
Basketball,
oh, really?
Too. Yeah. Like, if you look at the, like, old Michael Jordan highlights versus, like, the Bad Boy Pistons, like, dude was going up, literally getting clotheslined, and it was just like, oh, it's just a foul. Like, now, of course, you get ejected, like, and suspended, but before it was like, oh, it's just a foul. It's a hard foul. And it is just keep going. Like, it's a lot different of a game. But we live in a different society too, I think. A lot of people, I mean, it's just people see that as just too violent. And obviously the sport is violent. But, like, basketball's got a lot less violent, and football too. See, although our military industrial complex hasn't got any less violent, but no, I guess we're just not going to talk about that.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? For basketball, for me, I prefer college basketball just as somebody watching it because I feel like in the NBA they are just so good, and they're just, I mean, they're just like human gladiators,
Yeah.
and they're just. I feel like traveling is just not called,
No,
and
not really. Not
yeah,
anymore.
I don't know, man. Like, I just can't. When somebody dunks a ball starting at the foul line and they never dribble, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just can't. Like, I'd rather see
Yeah.
college where they're actually working in offense, and you know what I mean. Like, do you feel that way too, or no?
Well, so for me, like I see that viewpoint, and a lot of people that I played basketball all throughout high school, so I've always been a huge basketball fan. And for me, the reason I do love the NBA more is the skill level. For me, like when I see, and a lot of people, it looks so easy because they're all so good, like you said.
Right.
But like the skill level, like when I watch like someone like LeBron or like Damian Lillard, like the shit they do is literally unbelievable. But they do it so often that I think people kind of take it for granted. And like college is, like you said, it's much more like the player. When you get a whole team of players, like they're not nearly as skilled, so you have to play much more of like a team game. There's not going to be one or two guys that are just. It's not going to be LeBron and Anthony Davis scoring 80 points, and then like everyone else kind of rounding it out with like 30 points, right? Like college basketball is a lot more equitable, and like the NBA, because the season's so long. Like a lot of times during the regular season, like they really won't be trying that hard. You know what I mean? Like they won't be playing defense. But like college, it's like every game they're like, we're playing defense. Like there's only 30 games. Like those games are gonna be like seed you for the tournament. And there's a lot of teams that don't even make the tournament. And so it's like it's just a very different game fundamentally. And I think football's a little less of a there's a little bit less of a separation between like college football and like the game of college football and the game of like NFL than the NBA and NCAA basketball. But yeah, I think that I've heard a lot of people say they like college basketball for that exact reason, and I take that and I grant it. That's why I always say, well, this is why I love the NBA. And I think you can have, I mean, it's an honest disagreement. It's not really a disagreement, it's just a preference. But yeah, I mean, I like watching both. And it sucked when March Madness got canceled last year. Because that's like the best time to watch college basketball, even if you haven't really kept up with it, it's super fun to watch March Madness.
Oh, it's a blast, man. And every single year from probably the age of 18 to current, I'm always like, I'm going to follow it this year and I'm going to fill out a bracket and it's going to be a good bracket. And then it's March 1st and I'm like, I caught like 2 games. I got 2 games like at an alumni event I showed up to. Oh, where'd you go? I lost you for a second.
Oh, my bad.
I think you're back.
Yeah, no, it's funny. The thing about the brackets is similar to like fantasy football is that a lot of times the people that don't know like anything about basketball or about the game or about any teams, they end up doing the best. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what the like a lot of times in fantasy football, it'll be someone's like girlfriend who didn't even really want to play with an extra person who like wins the league, because it's just like a lot of that stuff just comes down to luck and chance. And, everyone likes to feel like they have power and control. But a lot of times, especially with sports, like you never know.
This might be an insanely goofy question, but since it came up organically, do you guys, being NFL players, do you guys ever actually do fantasy football yourselves?
I think there might be a few guys, but like, no,
really?
Yeah. I think I've heard of a few people doing it, but I personally don't do it. And a lot of, I think, and there's actually rules against doing it for more than like $200 or something like that.
Well, yeah, because you'd be like, I got to do shitty today, or else my thing's not going to work out.
Exactly. There's that, and obviously, like that wouldn't. Trust me, like as hard as it is to stay in the NFL and excel, there's not going to be a lot of people out there doing shitty because of fantasy football.
No, of course.
But you think so though? You think that might be an issue?
I mean, the numbers would have to be insanely high. I mean, it'd be like you're playing for more than your salary, and you have some huge where you're like, if I throw this, it's gonna. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty extraordinary circumstance to ever even wrap one's head around, but still kind of funny. Like that's just like, do I want to pick me up or no? I don't know. Like I mean, I had indigestion yesterday. I might go with the other guy.
Yeah, like one of my teammates, he did it this year. He did it as a part of like he like streams and he has like a whole community on Twitch, and so he like did a league with some of his followers or whatever. And it was funny because like the very first person obviously picked him first, so like he's literally playing. There was times like where he was on fantasy playing against himself, like his literal self and his production and his his numbers that he would come up with that game. So it's like, yeah, I'm playing against myself in fantasy, but I am myself like in real life, obviously. And so it's like, it's just a weird, like you said, it's a weird dynamic, but it's fun though. I think fantasy football is fun. It's really good with engagement. Like a lot of people, even if they're not like huge football fans or fans of a specific team, they like having their own team of players and who they can root for. So it definitely helps grow the game.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make